Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. This is episode 313. So, of course, I got to give a shout out to the 313 Detroit Pistons leading the Eastern Conference. If you're new here, you're probably like, why are we talking about basketball on a football podcast? If you've been around a while, you're probably like, why is George not doing the intro? Well, George is here. He's battling a little bit of the cold sickness that a lot of people are dealing with right now. But George, I know you're a little bit under the weather, but your two favorite teams are playing football tonight. How the heck are you doing?
I'm good. I was a little thrown off by the black background, but thank you for throwing something in there. Hanging in there. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys and having an existential crisis later. Shout out to Kempy who made me the It's Complicated shirt that I'm wearing in memory, even though I forgot to put it on for this. So I'm sorry, Kempy.
And if you're not sure what we're talking about, George has an Eagles football behind him, but we all know.
I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. So, what is the Couch GMs podcast? It is a fantasy football, just two dudes like hanging out, talking about sports, answering questions in the comments, talking about all things NFL related. As always, make sure you're following us over on social media, Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram. We are live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Mondays and Thursdays. And like I mentioned, the DMs are all, speaking is hard. And the DMs are always open. But George, what's happening? Alrighty, so we kick things off with what's happened around the NFL. This is our Week 14 reaction show. Real quick, we're going to talk about the Monday night preview at the end of the game because if you're listening to the podcast, you don't want to listen to any preview about a game that's already happened. But Omarion Hampton, if you're here now, was activated off IR, is expected to play tonight. We don't know the level of workload that he's going to have. And the other big name is Justin Herbert is expected to play. So I wanted to get you out there in case you had any questions about who to play and whatnot. But we can move on to what has already taken place. Shedeur Sanders, big game, over 300 passing yards against the Tennessee Titans. Interesting decision, which we can talk about, of taking him off the field for the 2-point conversion. So the Browns lost the game, but he played well enough that Kevin Stefanski said he will be the starter for the remainder of the season. Biggest takeaways from that, George?
I mean, he's the guy who it seems like the team's played the best for. It still hasn't been pretty, obviously, losing to the Titans. Not a lot of teams have done that this year. And the offense as a whole still needs a lot of work. Their defense is solid. But I think if you're looking at it so far, like he's the piece that you have the most future upside for. So I think it's smart for you to see what you can get out of him.
Yeah, and I think I honestly don't think Kevin Stefanski is going to make it through the offseason. I think he's going to be let go. And if Shedeur plays well enough and you're going to have an upper end pick and a quarterback class that isn't the best this upcoming year, maybe the new guy thinks they can get something out of Shedeur. They don't have to waste a premium pick on a quarterback. And then if they still stink the following year, they can pick someone else new. Also, over the weekend, when we talk about the Cleveland Browns, it was mentioned that Deshaun Watson, who's been on IR all season long, there's a lot of talks of this contract. They've really liked how he has been in the quarterback room, being a mentor for these guys, and they expect him to be on the roster next year. Some of that could be contract numbers and not wanting to eat that dead cap, but that is something worth monitoring, that maybe Shedeur and Watson have a little bit of a quarterback competition as we head in to the 2026-27 season. But I know it's week 14 already, but we don't need to start looking that far ahead.
I'm actually honestly shocked that they even, started to open the practice window for Watson. And if he's on the team next year, in my mind, they can call it a competition because of the name value, but like he's there because of cap.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next, we got injury reports, but before we do that, our friend from Nico over on Twitch he says he got a lot of questions. He's hitting us with the first one. He's up by 2 points, and he has Hampton left versus his opponent who has Vidal. Who is going to win this game according to you?
It's tough because a touchdown can swing it in a game that close. I have to believe Hampton would win it though, and then you got the 2 points on top of it.
Yeah, I agree. The touchdown is going to be the question mark, and I'm going back and forth in my head. Is Hampton going to, get the starter carries, but then, his limited snaps, they end up in the red zone. Vidal comes in. Maybe they like Vidal in the red zone because that's where he's been practicing. That's yet to be seen. Or is it going to be the other way around? Vidal might get them in between the 20s, and then once they're in the red zone, Hampton comes in. I tend to think Hampton. I will be honest with you. I have Hampton in a league that I need to win as well. So maybe that is just some wishful thinking, but just know that I am sending all those good vibes for a good game from Hampton to the football gods, anyone else that's willing to listen, the Chargers themselves, and hopefully we both come out victorious. All right. Injury report, stuff to go around. Couple big injuries, take away. No bigger injury than Daniel Jones this past week. Suffered a brutal Achilles injury, already out for the season. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
This Colts team has now lost 4 in a row. They're losing Daniel Jones. I was going to put this in the reality check section, which is coming up, but as a little bit of tease of what that segment is. Are the Colts done?
It's hard to say that they're done because I don't really know what's coming up behind them. And I can kind of fill some time while I try to look up the NFL standings here because I know the Chiefs also lost. So that's a team that we were talking about had the potential to pass them because they have the tiebreaker. But I mean, other than that, we got that AFC North team that doesn't win. Don't know if they're going to get enough wins. The Texans already passed them. The Chargers are already in a spot. The Dolphins could come up and snatch that. That's also a tough win, although the Dolphins have won 4 straight. I don't think they're done because they put themselves in such a good spot that they kind of need a team to step up on top of them crumbling to lose that by this point. But do I think they're going to make any noise in the playoffs with how this is going? No.
I think because I threw that question on you, you might have overlooked some teams. They're already currently out of the playoffs as we sit today. So they've already lost their playoffs because of the Houston Texans winning. They passed them.
For that team. Okay, got it.
We're 8-5. So right now, the current playoff situation, the division winners, which are the Broncos, Patriots, Jags, Steelers, and then the wild cards would be the Bills, Chargers, and the Texans. Now, if the Chargers lose tonight, that would put the 3-way tie at 8-5. I don't know how that all pans out, but the way the Texans defense is played, they're on a win streak. It's hard to see them falling off. Obviously, there's still 4 weeks left. Injuries could change a lot of things here. But with the loss of Daniel Jones, I just feel like we've already seen this team start to slide. I don't know if they're going to be able to recover after such a hot start, which is just brutal. I mean, Jonathan Taylor slowing down, which is not great for fantasy in general, especially with the playoffs coming up. A lot of people have, ridden him into high seeding and maybe potential buys. They didn't get much better news as their backup quarterback, Riley Leonard, is dealing with a knee injury now after the game on Sunday. Now they expect him to still be able to go, but they don't know how much he'll be able to practice this week, which when you have a rookie quarterback, that is all you want him to practice as much as possible. And reminder, Anthony Richardson is still on IR and he will not practice. He does not anticipate to practice this week. And I think we all thought he was already back. So I was kind of surprised to see that as well. But the Colts are definitely struggling, but there's one team that might be struggling even more than them, and that is the Washington Commanders coming off of a 31-0 blowout to the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, those Minnesota Vikings. But Jaden Daniels returned to action, got a big hit, left. They call it a precaution after taking a hit to his elbow. At this point, do you think Jaden Daniels comes back for the rest of the year?
I didn't think they should have brought him back the first time, so I want to say no, but it sounds to me like there's still a good shot he does. They brought him out as a precaution in a game that was out of hand, but Jaden Daniels has made it pretty clear that he wants to be in there if he can be. And if the doctors cleared him for contact and it was just oh, he got a bruise, then there shouldn't be a reason they pull him out, medically per se. So I don't see how they then go back on their word at this point.
Yeah, but sometimes you just got to protect a player from themselves. So sitting at 3-10, basically eliminated from the playoffs at this point. I don't think mathematically yet, but they might have been after this week. I think it's time to shut him down, personally. And then also in that game, their veteran tight end, one of the leaders on that team, Zach Ertz, George with the Eagles football behind him, knows how much he's meant to his former team. Brutal knee injury. He's at the age of 35, and you have to wonder. You already were wondering how many more years does he have left? Does he have the capacity to go through the rehab, come back at age 36 off of an ACL, or do we potentially just see the last of Zach Ertz?
I think there's more of a chance that we saw the end of Zach Ertz than we do seeing him coming back. And I hate to say it because quietly one of the better tight end careers in NFL history. I mean, he had a year where he had over 100 catches, and he's, been a journeyman kind of at the end of his career here, but he's always just been that reliable target. So I hate to see it, but I mean, honestly, there's not much else that he can achieve as a player either. He also has a Super Bowl ring too. So if he does decide to hang it up, claps for him. He had a great career, but I would love to see him try to come back also.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one, but I tend to agree with you. And also, while you were talking, I did confirm the Commanders are eliminated from playoff contention. So just something to monitor there. Two other quarterbacks left their games injured. That was Geno Smith and Tyrod Taylor. It's the Jets and the Raiders. They're both bad teams, but just wanted to let you guys know about that one.
Had to enjoy Kenny Two Gloves a little bit, right?
Exactly. And then potentially a big scare, which sounds like it might be better off now, but Devon Achane left the game this past week, but after Mike McDaniel spoke on Monday, he said that Achane would have been available to go back in, or he wanted to go back in. He didn't say if he was available or not, but they're expecting him to be back and ready to go this week, which ties me into Nico's second question. Is Achane going to be replaced by Wright or Gordon in week 15? They're both available on waivers, but I really need Achane for the playoffs. So first off, it sounds like you're going to get Achane for the playoffs, but I do think, and I know we have a whole segment of waiver wires coming up, but I think this is going to be an interesting debate for a lot of people coming into waivers. If they have Achane, if they're going up against the Achane owner, which guy do you target? Ollie Gordon was the guy at the beginning of the season. Jalen Wright's coming off of, I believe, a 17 rush, 17 attempts, 100 yards.
24 rushes, actually, crazy enough.
24. I knew it was high, and I was going to say 24, but then that sounded too high. So 24 rushing attempts, over 100 yards, where Ollie Gordon didn't see much action. So in this situation, which guy are you going to go after in waiver wire? Even if you just want the handcuff in case this pops back up after week 15 or something like that, a re-injury or something.
I'm keeping an eye on injury reports because I think part of the reason, Wright wasn't available earlier in the year, and I think they're really high on him, but Ollie Gordon's been dealing with some things too, even though he's been playing through it as the backup. So I think that also kind of, feeds into why Jalen Wright get all the work, but I think he's got to be the guy right now. We have to go off the sample size that we have so far. And I'm hoping that, McDaniel's not fooling. He's like, Achane's the guy. If he's good to go, he's going to be in there. He's going to get at least close to a full workload. And he's been so important to so many teams, one of mine included, that he's kind of been one of the under the radar fantasy MVPs so far this year. So I understand trying to go find that handcuff. I would go with Wright after seeing all those carries because of the health concerns with Gordon. And because I know that Wright's been successful in the past, I think that the Dolphins still have the shot to go with him, even with Gordon in the room.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would go with Jalen Wright as one of the top guys for waivers this week, especially if you're the Achane owner. I'm just looking here, which I should have had pulled up while George was talking, but I was just so into what he was saying that I cannot find it on.
My scratchy voice is very gripping today, Cody.
I know. It sounds so good.
Yeah.
But the Dolphins, the other problem with this, which is what I thought, the Dolphins are the Monday night game in week 15 too. So we're obviously going to do a preview on Thursday, but that is going to be a situation to monitor.
Achane owner needs to get right then just to have that handcuff.
Yeah. So we'll definitely have more of an update on Thursday on this situation. But as of right now, Wright would be the guy I'm targeting. And then the last little bit of injury news, not so much fantasy football related, but just because I feel like this saga has been going on all season long. Trey Hendrickson, Cincinnati Bengals, he is going to have season-ending surgery. So he will not be back until next year when he hits free agency, assuming not with the Cincinnati Bengals at this point. And then T. Higgins has re-entered concussion protocol. We saw the big play where he hit his head, but he was able to push through it. But after the game, he started reporting symptoms. So Higgins is in concussion protocol. The Bengals are holding on for dear life for their playoffs. So if they're going to try to get through, they're going to need him back. But we'll see how that works out. Anything to add on either of those two guys?
Concerned about Higgins' availability next week if he's reporting symptoms, because that's 2 concussions in 3 weeks, I believe. So those tend to be multiple week injuries. So it's going to be something we really have to keep a close eye on.
We are talking about this right now as the NFL and NFLPA just put out a statement that T. Higgins was actually evaluated twice and in-game and cleared to return. After the game, in discussion with the medical personnel as a part of post-game evaluation, he notified the team he was experiencing symptoms and was immediately placed in concussion protocol. So
is it a case of a player lying during the game, or just, I mean, I know every concussion is different. Sometimes symptoms come up afterwards. We just saw it a few weeks ago with JJ McCarthy too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be a doctor. I believe that, there's more signs than word of mouth for a concussion. I could be wrong, but that is something that he was evaluated a couple times. And I think that just goes to show on how scary concussions can actually be. But that was good to point out. You ready to jump into reality check?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty, so you kind of got if you've been listening since the top of the show, you got a quick glimpse. We talked about the Indianapolis Colts, but before we do that, our good friend Nico over on Twitch has another question. So let's say he has a big dilemma. I have McBride, but he got shut down by the Rams this week. Next week, Arizona plays the Texans, who shut down Travis Kelce, even better defense. I also have Strange on the bench and Theo Johnson available in the waivers. Should I put anyone else than McBride or not? So basically, Trey McBride, rough game against the Rams. They get to go against the Texans, a top defense. I wouldn't compare it to Travis Kelce. He's had a down year all year. But then you have like Brenton Strange on the bench and Theo Johnson available on waivers. So my instant reaction is I'm going to ride with Trey McBride. I believe he entered the week as the number 1 tight end on the season. And I think you just roll with that, especially that position that is super volatile already. I get why Brenton Strange might be intriguing as well because, a better matchup for the Jags. The Jags are playing well. And then Theo Johnson, same thing. He's had some big moments in big games. And at the end of the day, for this situation, and George, you can say something different if you want to. But when I have an elite tight end like a McBride or George Kittle last season, a Brock Bowers last season, even in bad matchups, I'd rather swing with the elite talent than trying to chase a touchdown or someone on, like a Brenton Strange or a Theo Johnson. So I get why you're concerned because of how well the Texans defense is, but it takes one catch for a tight end to have a good week in the end zone. And I think McBride has a higher chance of getting there. And Brissett, for what it's worth, has played really well in garbage time because they've gotten blown out a lot and has made up a lot of points. I know that didn't work out for McBride this past week, but that is something to consider as well. Is like they might not be consistently scoring up points, but the Cardinals are getting offensive production in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, after the games are pretty much out of reach, but still scoring some points. But George, what are your thoughts on this question?
I think we're kind of spoiled when it comes to how McBride's production's been so far this year because he scored so many touchdowns. He had so many straight games over 10 half PPR points. He put up 8.3 and a half PPR this week. Not a good game by his standards, but still a good game by tight end standards. So I don't think I would go out there and get cute and try to play someone instead of him. And I would just kind of ride the course, especially because if you look at even deeper in the numbers, 5 catches on 9 targets. There's not many tight ends out there that are getting 9 targets. And even the ones that are, I would still take McBride over them because he gets the red zone targets and gets so much red zone work. And the Cardinals offense has been so much better in the passing game. And I'm not even concerned if Marv comes back. Honestly, he's been playing well with or without Marv. So I'm sticking with McBride not getting cute.
Alrighty. So reality check time where we ask some key questions, break down some of the biggest plays in the game, and there's no other place to start. Was it a touchdown? If you don't know what we're talking about, we were talking about the Ravens-Steelers game. The Ravens thought they had the go-ahead touchdown to Isaiah Likely. It was called on the field. It was then overturned because the defender did a good job fighting through the play and causing the ball to go loose. And upon the replay, it did appear that it was just slightly before the third foot came down, not giving him the quote-unquote football move that you need to do to establish a catch. But George, was it a touchdown?
Technically, by the rule, it wasn't. If he would have tried to pull the ball in and got it to his body before he lost it, I think that would have been considered a touchdown. If he would have gotten the third foot down before it came loose, that would have been considered a touchdown. But by the rule, he hasn't. And I mean, I've heard so many different arguments over the last even few years since they changed the catch rule of like, we still don't know what a catch is. But at least in my mind, like I feel like 95% of the time now, I can at least point to that rule and be like, I understand why this was or this wasn't a catch. There's still those couple of cases where I don't see it, or I think the rule might have, need some adjusting still. But in this case, by what's on paper, they got it right. And should it have been a catch? I think probably, but by the rule, it's not.
So I agree. I think they got it right. I actually said it before they went to the review. I was like, I think he might not have controlled the ball long enough. But that is just, watching football. I did question, though, is there a difference if this happened? If it happened in the middle of the field, I think it makes, yeah, sure. But because it happened in the end zone, and you just think about all the plays that are like, it's a crosser going around, they get 2 feet in, third foot steps out of bounds. Well, it's never like, well, he didn't make a football move in bounds, but obviously the step gets in and it's just 2 feet in. Or, they're falling to the ground, only the knee gets in, whatever. All I'm saying is because there is, the end zone where just a piece of the ball has to cross the line. Like even look at the Chase Brown catch for the Buffalo Bills. He was diving forward and he caught the ball and his momentum carried him out of the end zone. And originally they called it down to the 1. And then they reversed it and was like, well, when he first made contact with the ball, he was in the end zone. So we are going to give him forward progress into the end zone, calling that a touchdown. And I just think that's where this rule gets a little bit questionable, is like, why is it only sometimes the tip of the ball? Why is it only 2 feet this time? It's a very similar situation to, if you think back a couple years ago, in my mind, Julio Jones, and we've seen it since then, but he was the first one that I remember caught the ball and got his 2 toes down. But because he was falling backwards and his heels came down, that then counted as the foot, even though it was clear a toe touch. But because it was going the different direction, you had to count the heels. Like it was just, the end zone just gets extra weird. And I think that just played a case for that this week.
No, it's true. And I mean, there's still cases on the sideline in the end zone where like you need more than that 2 feet. Like if you're going to the ground, you still have to survive the ground, whether it's inbounds or not. Like, so there's still not that much of a change compared to the regular catch rule, but I get what you're saying. Like, it feels like it's like 2 feet down, possession, play should be over. But I guess there's still that having to complete the process of the catch that it doesn't feel right in that case, but technically it keeps it consistent with the rest of the game. But there's so many other things like, yeah, the toe, like is a toe and then a heel count, like that's all weird. And the fumble through the end zone still the worst rule in football. Like we're never going to be completely happy, I don't think, with the way that the rule book is written. But in this case, by the rule book, they got it right.
Yeah, and I can't show you NFL clips here without this stream getting taken down, but it was ironic to me too, and I'm obviously a Packers fan. You can tell by what's behind me, what I'm wearing on my shirt, whatnot. But the Steelers had a very similar play happen when they were trying to come back against the Packers. I believe it was Roman Wilson. He got 2 feet down, and then they ripped the ball out, and it looked like it was not a third foot, but they ended up calling it a touchdown. So then you're back to like which crew, like why was that one versus this one not? Like, was it really just like the split second? I honestly thought this was going to be the classic, the call stands, like, because it was like bang bang, and again, just with the end zone situation, I think if he was falling too, that would have made it more sense. Like, and he didn't complete it but like, you catch the ball, you got 2 feet down, you're in the end zone, you slow up, right? You get so like it was just an odd situation. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they could have scored them. Obviously took a big playoffs point, and anytime you take points off the board, it stings. But it wasn't like the last play of the game. They still had an opportunity to come back and win. They just didn't make the most of it.
Can I hit you with one more play from that game, though, also? That kind of like confused me.
Sure.
So earlier in the game, there was a play where Rodgers had a ball tipped up in the air. He tipped it back to himself, caught it kind of against his helmet, and then on the way to the ground in part of the same motion, he had it ripped away by a Baltimore defender, and they called it a catch by Rodgers and down by contact. But because he was going to the ground while he was catching the ball, shouldn't he have had to survive the ground?
Yes.
So
and
I thought they got it wrong, but everyone seemed to agree that like once Rodgers pinned it against his helmet, it was over.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where you get into the gray area of like what's surviving the ground. Like if he was, because it was like his backside that hit with the helmet up. Like it wasn't like the helmet, like the ball, again, because which way your feet goes matters. Like it wasn't like his helmet hit first, right? And like it was like, did the ground cause the like another part of his body hit first? That could be something, but yeah, it's a similar situation. It just, I'll be honest, and I might just sound like a hater, but I don't think I think a lot of people would agree. I thought yesterday's games was maybe one of the worst officiated like collectives on the season. Like I just felt like there was weird calls, non-calls, interesting calls all game. I mean, the whole America had to watch Packers Bears, and there was a play, the Bears' second possession, I believe, where similar situation. It was a deep ball to Colston Loveland. The safety punched the ball out before the third step. Ball comes loose, falls into the safety's hands. The safety ends up with the ball. Ball never touches the ground, rolls over, and then Colston Loveland smacks the ball out of his hand, and they end up calling it incomplete, saying that the safety never, even though he had the ball on the ground and rolled over.
Yeah, that feels like the catch should be completed.
So it was, but just a bad day, and obviously that touchdown is going to be a lot of scrutiny because that would have gave them the go ahead. Obviously, the Steelers end up winning. It was a big game for the division lead. Now the Ravens are a game and a half back over the Steelers. Steelers currently have the head to head, but they'll see each other again. So,
all right, Cody, are you sitting down?
Yeah.
With the Daniel Jones news, the Colts are bringing in Phillip Rivers for a workout.
Well, he knows the system.
Phillip Rivers, the one who's been retired for how many years?
He's probably tired of watching all his kids.
He's got himself a whole squad.
I believe the tweet I just read is he is a grandfather.
Oh my God. Would that be the first?
It would not be the first.
Okay.
Could not be the first. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. Let's ask the quick old Google machine. How many kids does Philip Rivers have? He has 10 children.
Yeah, he was one short of a full squad. Full squad if you counted him as a quarterback.
Well, now apparently has a grandkid. So
he is 44 years old. Apparently it's his birthday, according to Rap Sheet. So happy birthday, Philip Rivers. Enjoy a workout, and we'll see if we get. I don't know how I would feel about what is he. Does he still have enough in the tank to bring this back?
there's no way. Hang on. Sorry. I'm sorry, the listeners of this. This is terrible podcast, but I have to Google free agent quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, I know the first one that's going to come up that we were talking about last year even was Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, but he hasn't played. He was part of the system. That's okay. I want this to be available, not signed.
Oh, this one just caught me off guard. That was not a name that I expected to pop up on my feed, maybe even ever again.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole of Taylor Heineke, probably a little bit better than Philip Rivers at
I
this
could
point
see
in his
that.
career. Ryan Tannehill, that you mentioned. Sorry, ads are popping up on here. Okay, that one, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Okay, maybe let's slow down.
Yeah.
This was an article of like top 3 free agents available to whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Really
I mean, there's got to be like, what's Andy Dalton doing? He's got to be. Is he still in Carolina?
I think he is.
Okay. I was gonna say, is he still the backup for? Okay, Philip Rivers. That threw us for a loop. Let's talk about something a little bit better as we move through this. But thank you for breaking the news. And maybe we're just gonna keep talking about things that are past their prime.
Ooh.
Last night, did we witness the end of a era? The Chiefs era, the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce era.
I
Kelce
think
era.
we definitely are witnessing the end of the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce era. I think, like I've said before, we're moving into the middling lull part of the career of the GOAT. Like if we're in the Tom Brady timeline, we had that early career success. We're going to be relevant, but not winning or in many championships for a few years. And then we're going to have a strong finish. Like that's what I'm imagining. But no, I think the cracks are finally forming on this Chiefs team. They're obviously an aging team in some positions too. So they're going to have to go through a little bit of a rebuild. And Mahomes is always going to keep them relevant. And I mean, I would say they're relevant this year. It's crazy that they are an under 500 team with Mahomes having maybe one of his best statistical years of his career. But here we are where they are going to have to, fill the cabinets back up. And it's going to take a little bit of time.
So I really liked your comparison there of the Brady era going into that a little bit of a lull. The one thing that I don't think Mahomes is going to have is the consistency at head coach. I don't think Andy Reid's in for another 10 years. Like, Brady went 10 years between winning Super Bowls. I don't think Andy Reid's in for another 10. Could be wrong.
No, I mean, you're right, because there was already rumors of is Reid going to retire after their second Super Bowl together?
So maybe they tried the Matt Nagy thing, keep him on the staff. He's on the staff. Maybe they go for a different direction, whatnot. That's a different conversation for a different day. But I'm really intrigued. I do think it's the end of the era. I would not be surprised. I mean, Travis Kelce is a free agent after this year.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean he couldn't do the 1-year deal until he's done. I think the Chiefs would have him back if they so wanted him to. And I wouldn't even put it past him to come back midseason next year, something like that if they get hot or on a run. But I do think we watched the end of an era, and that was just a brutal way to end the game for specifically Travis. I mean, he's kicking himself. The back-to-back drops, the drop that turned into an interception that basically iced the game. It was definitely tough to watch. You could see on the sideline after that play, it just felt like all the air left out of. It was almost like that Kansas City knew their season was over.
It's not the first time he's had that happen to him this year too. Like we even talked about last year, he wasn't quite the same player, but like he looks like a shell of himself at this point. Like he kind of went too far. He had a drop turn into an interception earlier in the year against the Eagles. He's had plenty of other plays where you've seen like, why'd Kelsey drop that? Kelsey doesn't drop that. And it's kind of like a changing of the guard where you have to start questioning, one, is it even worth him to even think about coming back? And two, would they be better without him at this point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the offense can't go through him anymore like it once did.
No.
I do think there is some, that chemistry issue. Like, yes, he's had his moments, and maybe he doesn't need to be an every down player, but I still think Mahomes and him could make magic in the red zone just because they have such a connection. But they have to find some other options, and I don't think if they're down, I don't think it'll be too long to they're back in meaningful competition.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a whole 10-year lull like it was in the Brady career, but it wouldn't shock me if there was 2 or 3 years where they're like, they missed the playoffs this year, they get knocked out in the first round next year, they maybe make it back to an AFC championship but can't get over the hump in 2 years, and then they're back in that contention.
I can see it. So just for what it's worth, talking about these two teams right now, I'm clicking through some schedules, and we talked about the Colts being done. They're ahead of the Chiefs, but just looking at some of the key matchups in this AFC playoff race coming down the stretch here. Next week, Colts go to Seattle. I don't think they're going to win that one. That's not great for them. The Texans, they're going to go to Arizona. I think they're going to take care of business there. Chiefs, Chargers. Maybe on Thursday will be my game of the week, because if the Chiefs can get a win there, that would help them out tremendously, because that's Chargers, one of the teams they have to catch. You pivot over to week 16. Chiefs get the Titans. Hopefully they can get the win there. Texans, Raiders, you think they're good. Colts, 49ers. Doesn't feel like they're going to win that game. Ooh. And then it's Chargers, Cowboys in Dallas. You know how good Dallas plays a lot better at home. That would be an interesting one for the Chargers. Then week 17, the Chargers and Texans play. Okay. So the Texans could help the Chiefs out again in that situation, although the Broncos and the Chiefs play. But it's in Arrowhead. Could they get some magic there? And the Colts have the Jaguars, which they just lost to. And then week 18, the Chiefs get the Raiders, and the Broncos play the Chargers. And you would have to think that depending on how the situation, they're still going to be playing for that 1 seed, depending on how the next couple weeks go.
Them and the Patriots both seem like they're inevitable at this point.
So obviously I didn't click through all those teams there. And I had the Chargers lose every game except the Cowboys game. I let them beat the Cowboys just so they at least won one game. And then I had the Chiefs win every game. And that currently put them in the 7th seed. So they have a slim shot. It's not the easiest route. Obviously, some more things are going to have to fall that way because I didn't pick every single team outcome and whatnot. But there is a sliver of hope, and maybe they can take advantage of it. But after last night, I just feel like all momentum was lost.
Well, yeah, because you're asking a team that's been struggling as much as they are to win out, and then also get some help where, like, heck, the Chargers can go out and win tonight, and that would make things complicated. And you had the Chargers basically losing out except for one. Like, if Herbert gets healthy and Hampton does what he did those few weeks, there's a chance they can win 2, and then already knocks you out. The Colts, that makes me feel even worse about the Colts with what you just said. Their schedule's brutal, and they are already on the fall, and they're bringing in Phillip Rivers as emergency policy. So,
yeah, I think for one thing that I'm pretty confident the Colts are done. I'm pretty confident the Texans are going to win, and it's just going to be, does the Texans or the Jags win that division?
Yeah. And the others should get a wild card at this point. unless
Yes,
there's some really crazy thing that happens.
and I what's really fascinating to me as we get down the stretch here, and I know I'm going off on a complete tangent right now, is we're talking about the Chiefs potentially getting in at 10-7 if they win all 4 games. Even if they don't, the 7th seed in the NFC or the AFC, excuse me, might be 9-8, 10-7, and whatnot. Where on the NFC side, there is a potential for an 11-team win to miss the playoffs just because of how talented it is up there. So we'll have to wait and see how that all unfolds. My last reality question talks about one of the teams that aren't doing very good right now. But who wins the NFC South after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drop to the New Orleans Saints? The Carolina Panthers, they're currently both tied at 7-6, but the Buccaneers won their earlier matchup against them, and they play again in week 16, I believe. Yeah, week 16. So who do you got as of December 8th?
I still have a hard time betting against Baker when you're comparing him to a young Panthers team. And we're going to see Mike Evans coming back at some point, it seems like, which is going to give them a boost as well. I think that's going to take pressure off of Ibuka, who has not been as good since we heard he's been dealing with injury for the last how many weeks. So I'm going to stick with Tampa Bay, but I am very impressed with how Carolina has been playing.
Okay, so I misspoke. The Panthers and the Buccaneers haven't played yet. So they play week 16 and week 18.
That's a tough draw.
Week 16, week 18. Next week they play their opposite. So the Panthers now play the Saints. Buccaneers play the Falcons. Expect them both to get wins there. Week 17, their only other matchup not against each other. The Panthers have the Seahawks, but it'll be in Carolina. So
Okay.
I assume Seattle will win, but I would have said that last week about the Rams too. And then the Buccaneers have Miami, which I would have said Buccaneers win, but Miami's on a 4-game win streak. So the NFC South, it might end up being an 8-9 team that make it.
And
But
and that might be Sunday Night Football Week 18 winning it in.
Yeah, Panthers.
I mean, there's also a chance that that's Ravens Steelers, but you know what I mean.
No, I'm just thinking here. Let's just say they both lose week 17.
I like how Cody's firing up the playoff machine live here.
I am. It's my favorite time of year to go through it. But it could be a winner get in for that 4 seed. Interesting. All right. We're 40 minutes in, bro. I got to hit this bumper so we can do waiver wires. This is why I don't typically host. George keeps me on track. I just go off on tangents. Here we go. Waiver wires. Alrighty. Waiver wire for your week 15 matchups, round 1 of the playoffs. If you do your playoff system the right way, these guys are currently 60% or less owned on NFL.com. So there might be some discrepancy in depending on your platform, whatnot. But a lot of these guys are more readily available. Not a ton of big names to add. Let's start at the quarterback position. Obviously, we're streaming a lot of the times if we're doing the waiver wires. And this week, I am looking at Trevor Lawrence as the Jags get to play the Jets. He's had over 20 points the last 2 weeks. Positive matchup. If you need a guy this week, I think you got to look at Trevor Lawrence.
I like that one. I'm not going to argue there.
All right, and I'm not spending it. I would spend some fab on him, especially if you're in the playoffs. Like spend it while you got it, kind of momentum. But this isn't a guy that's going to carry you through the playoff run, as he has the Denver Broncos the following week. So you're going to need at least someone in week 16 if you make it. And if you're on a bye because you've won it, start looking at your week 16 matchups and get ahead of the waiver wire system in your leagues. But let's talk about some running backs. All names, or at least 2 of the 3 names we got here, have been mentioned before. Jalen Wright, we talked about at the top of the show. Achane sounds like he's going to be there, but if they play Monday night, you need to go get him. Whether you're the Achane owner, you're facing Achane, or someone else has Achane, and you just want to prevent that guy from getting him, go get Jalen Wright. But 2 other names, Kyle Monungai, continues to look good. The Bears, they had a solid running performance. I think Monungai got into the end zone, and then Blake Corum had a monster game this past week, although it was against the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams scored 45 points. Kyron had a good game as well. It wasn't as big as Blake Corum, but everybody feasted except Devontae Adams, which is very interesting in that matchup. Of the two, Monungai seems like he is starting to overtake Swift a little bit, or it's more of a 50-50 where Corum still feels like he gets some opportunities, but more of a handcuff. Are you prioritizing Monungai over Corum, even though Corum had a big week?
Yeah, 100% prioritizing Monungai. I think Monungai is getting starter carries at this point, and when you say that, obviously in the split, it's like 60% workload. Somebody who you could throw in a flex if you're in a bind and could still give you solid points to keep you in a playoff matchup. Blake Corum, I'm liking if I am the Kyron owner. And I think a big reason why Corum got a slightly bigger workload this week is because we did have Kyron with the ankle injury coming into this game. They were kind of taking it easy on him. I'm worried they're going to keep taking it easy on him a little bit as we go, but the Rams obviously aren't going to take the foot off the pedal because they're still in a very deep race for the number one spot and even for the division because they have two teams just a game or a half game behind them at this point. So they're going to keep pushing Kyron, but Corum's going to get work. It doesn't give me enough faith to have Corum in there as a starter unless Kyron misses time, though.
Alrighty. And then let's talk about some wide receivers that are worth wow. Again, speaking is hard. Christian Watson, Chris Godwin, Jaden Higgins, Alec Pierce are making our list of guys to target. Are any of these guys top priorities for you?
Watson looks like he could be going on one of his magic runs like he had a few years ago. So he's somebody who I know we've had on this column for a few weeks, like Monungai, but I think people are going to finally start believing in it. He's definitely my top priority. Don't love Pierce as much because of the uncertain quarterback situation, even though he's been solid. I'm a fan of Jaden Higgins. I actually ended up starting him in a league this week, and I think he's somebody who you could get flex consideration to in a bind, but he's not one of my favorites. Godwin concerns me because we don't know if Evans comes back, if his workload's going to be sniped a little bit.
Yeah, that Godwin seems to be coming on strong. I know Ibuka has taken a little bit of a step back as well, but you mentioned Mike Evans. Again, a lot of mouths to feed. You can say the same thing with the Packers as they got Jaden Reed back on a snap count. Matthew Golden, Devontae Wicks are both on snap counts. But Christian Watson over his last 7 games. Now, remember, this is all coming off of a torn ACL. 25 catches, 452 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's a 17-game pace of 60 catches, 1,000 yards, and 12 touchdowns. So you're just starting to see, and it's starting to feel like they are favoring him. Now, he's still a big play guy, and there's always the bust potential. I mean, look at Romeo Doubs this past week. That's why the Packers can be frustrating for fantasy football. Is he ended up with 1 target, no catches, maybe 2 targets, no catches this week. And Bo Melton, guy they transitioned to cornerback, end up getting a big play touchdown because the Packers like to go around here. But the way Christian Watson, especially since he's been back, and more importantly, the last 4 games, he definitely deserves to be owned, in my opinion.
Could be started even at this point until he proves us otherwise. Like, I was personally worried about the Jaden Reed return and everything else, but like I said, they're prioritizing him, and it's the closest to a wide receiver one we've seen on this Packers team since he was the wide receiver one a few years ago.
And George is getting up close. I mean, he's the only reason that me and George's League of Record game is close, because my whole team did not play very well, except him.
Sorry for your probably missing the playoffs.
It's all good. It's all good. It doesn't bother me. Unless I miss it in all my leagues, then that bothers me.
Oh, of course. But
you're making enough.
The Patch Games World Cup.
I am. We're going to do a full breakdown on who's in, who's out as we get ready for the final season of that. But we got to figure out who the champions are this year. But that'll be coming up on Thursday. Let's hit some tight ends and defenses. Again, these are high streamer positions. The tight ends we talked about, it's always a tough draw on which ones and to get. But let's look at Harold Fanning Jr., still under 60% owned, seems to be a target of Shedeur Sanders, and Sanders was named the starter. So I have to think that it is worth, paying attention to him. Now, next week's matchup is against the Bears. They have some good safety play, so might not be the best matchup as like a stream thing, but the way he's played with Shador in there all season in general, you have to like his opportunity. And then on the defensive side, we're going to end where we started, Jacksonville. They're going up against the Jets. We don't even know who their quarterback is going to be at this point. If Tyrod can't go, Fields still isn't back. Some undrafted rookie might be playing starter. Heck, maybe they're going to fly Phillip Rivers in on Wednesday. Who knows? But I'm going to play the Jags defense this week. Any thoughts on those guys or any other names you wanted to mention?
No, I mean, I like that we've seen now some success with Finn and with Njoku in there. It's going to be inconsistent, but that's kind of that way with every tight end for the most part. Jags D is one of those defenses that you can look at to stream coming into the playoffs. There was a couple other teams I know that you and I had talked about that had favorable schedules, going forward into the playoffs. The Eagles is someone I actually had on a stream this week when I was looking at potentially not having Herbert in tonight, but they have the Raiders next week. And then you made the good point for the Saints, who's actually a team that I added in a league because I was like, it's a good point. They do well in green matchups and they have a cakewalk schedule the rest of the way out.
Yeah, the only thing is week 16 and 17, Titans and Jets, like you have to feel really good about that. Panthers doesn't look as good as it did a few weeks ago when I first brought that up. But which Panthers show up? The team that beats the Rams or the team that gets blown out by the Falcons? Like you never know.
It's true. It's very true.
All righty. A few minutes here left. I don't have a bumper for it, I don't think. Let's talk about this Monday night football game. The Eagles at the Chargers. Chargers are 2.5-point underdogs, over under 41.5. But we mentioned Justin Herbert is expected to play in this game, and so is Amarion Hampton. No Jalen Carter this week. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Two biggest things on the Eagles side is going to be figuring out how to stop the run. Having Hampton back is going to be a big boost for the Chargers, and they're going to rely on the run with trying to protect Herbert. Number one, with how bad their offensive line has been, and number two, with the Eagles just getting gashed for 300 yards on the ground basically last week. Eagles side of the ball is figuring out how the heck to play offense because it's been super inconsistent. The only times that I've actually seen them have success, it seems like when defenses go back into prevent, they're able to expose that. But they've been struggling a lot against pressure, and they have not been able to run the ball as well as they were last year. And that's been showing massively over the last 4 weeks.
And then also worth noting that Lane Johnson is not going to play tonight. He is inactive, so that doesn't help the Philadelphia offensive line as he's one of their key pieces as well. I'm trying to pull up the Chargers inactives because, of course, they wouldn't give me both to see if there's any big name.
I don't know if you were with us at the start, Kempy, but sorry, I forgot to throw on the shirt. I've been dealing with. I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about. So, shout out to you. I gave you a shout out at the beginning. I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's going to delete this, so I better stop doing that. And the Chargers, they know their big names, and we talk about the big names they're getting back. So, George, give me your score prediction.
Eagles, I was surprised to see they were favored, and maybe I'm just using my actual bias here. I'm going to go Eagles 24, Chargers 20.
Alrighty. It has moved to 1.5. I'm assuming that is because of the news of who's going to play after you got the inactives and stuff like that. But
go Birds. I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about.
Nope. Bolt up, right? Is that what theirs is?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But yeah, we'll see if George is right on that one. Anything else you want to add, or you want to get out of here so you can go make yourself another cup of tea and get ready for this game?
Yeah, I got to cozy up with a blanket and a cup of tea and hope that my anxiety watching the Eagles as happening so far doesn't drive me over the edge tonight.
Well, hopefully that's well contained. Hopefully it's a good game. No bad calls, no potential. Did that guy catch it? Whatnot. None of that. Good game. Well appreciated. The Birds. But that'll wrap us up for another episode of the Couch GMs podcast, where we are live Mondays and Thursdays, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also available in the DMs on social media, TikTok, Instagram, X, all those good places. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurth, and we'll talk to you all on Thursday.